Hi everyone, Susie here from Minnesota, and I garden in a zone 4B, and I'm taking you on a September garden tour. Things are winding down here. Let's see. Oh, I better water that. And that's you could tell by the way the petals are. Well, it needs a watering. Just a mum. There was something about that mum that I had to have, but I did move a container over here. Still looked great, and these are just annual rudbeckias, which I will grow more from seed next year a little bit later, so I've got more blooming. Trying to figure out some fall color without having to buy a lot. Same container, they just look so great. We've had really beautiful temps, mid to high 80s. Sorry, I got distracted there. That was a little bit of a lull. But my sister moved in with me in 2020, and she likes to decorate for fall. So she bought the majority of these plants. I just offered up some of my containers, the bench back there, which is the birch bench from kind of the Hosta woodland garden. The lanterns are mine though, so I will put some lights in there once October gets here, so it's not too Halloween feeling. But everything else she picked up. She loves fall. I'm okay with it. Summer is my jam. Although it hasn't been feeling like fall here lately with it actually felt more summer now than it did in July. Containers still look great. I'm gonna be repeating a lot of this for next year. Love the fact that the bobos are not overly pink. I'm not gonna go into detail about every plant, or I've walked this way quite a few times this year, especially when it's been in bloom and has looked better. Just leaving this for some fall interest. One thing about September is that I learned to appreciate the little time that's left before a freeze, which will take this down to the ground. The Sun Kings, it just gets mush. So that lower light, warmer, more calming light. I'm just kind of looking at where I can improve. I have been working in this bed over here. I did get some Carl Forster grass back there, so it's the little ones. Just weaved it in along with some barberries. So I've got one right there, and then I have some over here. I'll just walk to the back quick. This is more of a grass garden. I do have a lot of early summer interest in the front, and then hopefully now later fall interest in the back. That is Pixiphone and Tufted Hairgrass. This soil over here is just drains so fast, hard to keep any moisture in it, even with the composting that I do and mulching. I did keep this hydrangea. I just like the airiness of this panicle hydrangea here. The other ones just flopped, and it could have been the season, but they had 3 years here, and they were just cuttings of mine. So yeah, it'll take a bit for them to get big, but it'll be a nice backdrop, and I love just that movement. And they like this area. They don't get overly tall. I would say they're probably about a little over 4 feet here, 4.5. Just measure it by me, I'm 5.5. About 4. Just a nursery container. There's a share shed at the greenhouse that I go to. It's huge. I got 2. That's kind of a nice huge bin to have for garden waste, but also I'm thinking about growing potatoes in there next year. Not cost effective, but that's a huge plastic bin, and I'm going to reuse it. But that's also what I have the sumac planted in. I know a lot of you were concerned about this running out, but that's the size of container that I planted it in the ground in. It'll help a bit, not all. This is Korean featherweight grass here. These were seeds I started. You'll see what mature plants look like in back. I think this will be the perfect spot for it. That is my compost that you're seeing. All my compost looks different from one another just depending on what I compost. A lot of times it's just root balls of spent plants, so which contains a lot of peat, so this is more brown. But I did expand here a little bit just because I got this pine tree here. It's a Mughal pine Tannenbaum. It looks a bit tough, don't gauge that. I got this from Fast Growing Trees, but I was a little late in planting it. But it doesn't get overly huge. And I want more pines or conifers in my gardens just for year-round interest. Heucheras look fantastic. I moved some in back here. They were up here because it was there, so I've probably expanded by about 4 feet. And then Siberian cypress, which is a good sun or shade, and it's a bit lime green right now, and it's not. I think the greenhouse just had it in way too much sun, or maybe overwatered it. So normally it's a really nice kind of an olive green. I've got some in the back garden. I love this. I think I have 6 of them now. Limelight here. This is not a year to gauge a lot of the hydrangeas just due to the excessive rainfall we had. Blooms are really nice, but it's very splayed out. So hopefully next year it's a little more upright. I'm giving it just next year. If not, that's fine. And then I can plant something else there, which I have a lot in my garden that I can kind of move around. I do like this. I had the Korean featherweed grasses here, 3 of them if you remember my previous videos. It's just, you'll see, they'll just be too tall for this. I don't know what I was thinking, probably because they were just free plants and seeds I started, and I love that grass. These are just an anemone honoring Joe Bear. I'm a zone 4B. I know I'm going to say that a lot, but plants just had to be really tough to survive the winters here. And anemones tend to not do really good, so at least it bloomed this year so I can enjoy it. Roses did get a little big here, but my winters, usually there's so much dieback, I'll be cutting them down to about 6 inches in the spring if they pull through the winter. But this is Lark Ascending. Love this one. And it might act a little bit like a climber, kind of like this one. That one only bloomed 2 blooms at the bottom. I want to say that's Gertrude Jekyll. So we'll see how it does next year. It's obviously happy, just a lot of growth. And I wrapped it around this obelisk. Beautiful morning. Finally, it's got that cool, crisp air. These are Bonica, and this one, I highly recommend this. The bloom power on this one is amazing. Constantly putting out buds. They're just very delicate. I am loving this container. There's just one begonia in there. I hope I kept the tag so I know which one that is for next year. I will repeat a lot. Begonias just were so easy to take care of, very low maintenance and forgiving. Pulmonarias this year have just done amazing. I swear they're on steroids, just how big they've gotten. This is Silver Bouquet. I did leave some of the hosta spikes on. It's just because I want to collect seed, which I've never done before, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I'm trying to add more pines or conifers to the land just for a little more interest. I'm not going to say winter because most of the time we have too much snow to enjoy it. I think this is a gold false cypress. And then a blue star juniper. These were planted last year. Don't let the hostas fool you. This is the south side of the house. I just had 2 trees taken down. If you're new to my channel. But everything's done pretty good this year due to so much rain. I am liking the Waltzing Matilda dahlias. They're so pretty. My dad, he passed away 20 years ago, but he'd always hum that song. So when I saw they had a dahlia named Waltzing Matilda, I had to get it, and it's beautiful. So it's fitting. So I would really like to see if I can overwinter this. Not outside, and just save the tubers. But my garage is my plant room, so it's heated. So I don't have exactly a great spot for it to go dormant. I was gonna try putting it in the fridge, but I just don't know if that will work. I feel like it'll rot if I do that. Korean featherweed grass is right here. I moved it earlier in the season, and they were clearance plants I got last year. But they'll get much bigger. Pretty bright over there. Not much difference, except for I'm really loving the Conocloa grasses. Normally they don't do the best in my gardens, just due to the really cold winters, but this is its own microclimate back here. There's been a lot of issues in my state, or I probably would say a lot of states if you had an excess rainfall. Just a lot of rust, fungal issues, lilacs, viburnums, crab apples look horrible. Sweet woodruff has never done this, but it's a nice ground cover, and it is nice and green inside, so that'll be fine. It's a pretty good one. I'm surprised at this. A Japanese lilac tree has not gotten it yet. So this looks really good. We've been very dry for the last 2 weeks now with the warmer temps and the high winds that we've been having. So it's just, I might have to water this tree. Trees and shrubs right now. I love the ivory halo red twig dogwood. It does require a little bit more water, so I did water it the other day. The rabbits like it too, so I never really get to enjoy the red stems. But maybe this year. There's bunnies now. Yeah, I don't know where the den is. Probably under one of these huge hostas. Some are looking pretty good, and others are just petering out quicker than others. Astilbes are crisping up back here. This is the Siberian cypress. You can see how much greener this is. So it gets about 4 to 6 feet wide, and it said 1 to 3 feet tall. That's another one right here. But I think it's just kind of the arching habit. Like this is a little bit, I really like them. I've been just moving some more of my hostas and back, along with some ferns that are not appreciating it. They'll look better next year. Any perennials I have in containers may or may not survive my winter, so I don't recommend it unless if it's hardy to a zone 2 if you're a 4B, but maybe even a 3 depending on winter. But I will leave it. I do have a good amount of plants to try that with. And then same with the one down here. I just don't know if I want to leave that container out in the cold. I don't want that to bust or crack. Love the seed heads of the clematis here. That is just super cool. So you can... They did really good this year. A lot better than what they've done anywhere else. So they can just go dormant. As long as the roots are great, they'll be good. Fuchsias are doing really good still, putting out a lot of buds here. I've never had huge success with fuchsias, so that one I'm definitely keeping the tag. But it's in a perfect spot too. Sometimes it's just all about finding the perfect spot. That's like my gardens. None of this is set up on drip. So it's pretty much right plant, right spot, or they can perish. This is Korean feathery grass, and this is probably about 5 feet tall. Is that not just gorgeous with this willow here? Not much to see going behind, so I'm just gonna stay to the front. I'm hoping I can get this tour done in under 40 minutes. Just, that seems about the right time for uploading. I really love these. Again, you can start them from seed. They will not bloom if those seed heads the first year. And I did move my other ones in the back, so there will be a huge drift next year, which I love this. That morning sun coming through, that's when they look the best. I do have my hose out because it's just reminding me to keep watering the containers, anything newly planted. Still looks great. See this hosta down here. I'm pretty sure this is golden tira. It's always one of the first ones to brown up. Pelargoniums look amazing because we haven't had any rain to knock those blooms off or make them mushy. I have some deadheading to do, which I've been doing and throwing out. Usually whenever I'm potting my dogs, that way it gives me something to do when they're doing their business. Gomphrena here, Audrey White, started from seed. Highly recommend this annual. I have not done anything to get it to look like this, and they always look perfect. Never dingy, dying. You do not have to. There's 4 plants here. You don't have to pinch it to get it to branch out. It just does it. I know it's red, but honestly, I love this. Little pops of red in the garden are perfect. I don't know which one this is called. It's a non-branded hibiscus. One of the later ones to bloom, which is really nice. It staggers the bloom on all the hibiscus that I have. I would say that's probably my favorite one. Turtlehead Chelone. Love this. It does spread, but it's been probably here at least 12 years here. Likes it wet, or I should say tolerates wet soil, and is always a bit taller when it is a wet season. Pollinators love it. It is going over. I would say it probably has another, and with the warm temps we had, I think it just sped up the bloom cycle. I am loving all the heucheras down here. This is just a painter's palette Persicaria. The blooms are nothing spectacular, but they do bring in the pollinators. This is the last plant to bloom in my garden. Not overly aggressive either, but it does seed, so. Rabbits have been eating the Rodgersia. Or I shouldn't say eaten, I'm just trimming. But yeah. I have not mowed yet. I do set my blade pretty high, about 4 inches. When I mow 3 to 4, it will be getting lowered as the season goes on, just before winter. Get that grass short, yeah. So, I did plant some Hakanakloa grass back here. And I'm leaving the plants too. That grass can tolerate shade, but at least this is blocking it because of the rabbits. Quiet morning. Self-seeded alyssum, just from a spring container. I love it. I love how it's I named the fish Wanda, and it is behind her, so a little sea of white. I think it's fitting, and that's just nature. Oh, so easy paprika. Constantly blooms. I don't deadhead this one. The Queen of Sweden roses. Highly recommend this. Just got this year. I had it in ground, and then it flooded, and then I put it in a pot, and actually there's 2 of them here. I'm very happy I did. It's constant blooms the entire season. I don't know if I can get close enough. This Joe Pye weed here, I had it planted many years ago, and it always got way too tall just because of my sun situation. Now I have more sun, and I'm okay if it sticks around. Let's see. That's right, not too many. But for that one, look at how many bees are on that plant right now, sleeping. So I hope it sticks around. I'm just surprised it's come through all of the mulch and cardboard that I have back here to control Creeping Jenny. I didn't plant that, it just rooted and took over, and now it's a battle. I have just been moving a few plants in my gardens here. I moved some of the penstemon to the middle. They're easy to move, very shallow rooted. And then I did plant a tiny wine 9 bark here for that contrast of foliage with, once it gets a bit bigger with these grasses. Carl Forster. This is a dahlia that I was not going to plant. It's in ground here, so it's a bit shorter. It's gorgeous, isn't it? That variety is Islander, which I'm kind of debating if that's correct. It is definitely more pink online. But I like to go with different varieties, not what other people are growing. I already know what they look like, so I just don't feel like planting the same one. This is Olivia Austin Rose. Doing great. Look at the growth. Self-seeded Veronica in there. More clematis seed heads. Just love it. Ooh, that's right. I forgot that I put a hose guide down here. Have to be careful. I put it in more because I'm like, I'm not going to step on a plant, but obviously it wasn't in far enough. This is a Georgia Peach Heuchera. I have a lot of these because they're just amazing. Sun or shade. This is just a hardy mum. Good to zone 3 to 9. I think it's bronze. It will get a bit bigger, probably about like this, if it survives. White Wands Veronica is blooming again. A little bit shorter, but the foliage still looks good. Rabbits have been loving the aster here, but they made room for that to pop through, so can't get too upset. I did feel the bird bath because we've been so warm that the squirrels and the birds were just looking for something. Astrantia is blooming again. Lots of beautiful growth below. I am leaving it this year with it being this late in the season. Hopefully another month before a frost hits. That might be pushing it. Huge container of hip hop euphorbia. I love this. And then these asters here, I think it's like Woods Aster. It's supposed to be pink, but it's got more of a pink purple tone. Very happy. I am definitely not a huge pink person. An annual I started from seed, Purple Prince Alternanthera. Was put through the ringer this year between the flooding and the rabbits, and I do not have to water this one. And then this is Medusa alliums. They do self-seed. I do have a few blooms here happening on the Firelight Tidbit. I was giving it one more year to bloom, and a little bit later, not much, but next year maybe it'll be the year for it. I saw a hummingbird somewhere. Oh, right there. don't know if I caught it, but yeah, they've been a little bit more active. I mean, but look at this dahlia popping through here. In ground, it stays a bit shorter, which I'm fine with. If I put in a container, they get super tall, and that's just the difference between, you know, native soil and potting mix. Last few blooms on the phlox here. This is a coral color, don't let it fool you, but there's also some self-seeded ones that are a little bit more fuchsia and then a little bit more lavender in color, which I think is pretty. Delphiniums finally looking good after a horrible start in the summer. Not many of them survived, same with the lupins. They were all seeds I started, so not overly upset by that. I did plant the 2 more Alchemilla mollis. This was just looking tough for a bit, and then it started to pull through. So I'll find a home for them next year. They're not going to stay there. That's a bit too much. And then I moved more penstem in here. Onyx and pearls. It does get a little tall, but for the time being, I'll leave it. I was just going to get rid of them, and then when they moved so easy and transplanted, I was like, you know, free plants. There's nothing wrong with that. This, I am going to appreciate the rainfall now because everything looks very lush and green and doing better at this time than it normally would. The pelargoniums are amazing. Took them a bit. I only have 3 in each container, just seeds I started too. And I was going to show you, and I do not water my annuals in ground. I don't waste the water in them, and that is just me. It's a me thing. They were just seeds I started, so that's why they're browning. This is a self-seeded foxglove in this container with the sweet pea. I planted this probably 2 years ago. I reused my potting mix, and so look at that. Dalmatian rose. So yes, it will bloom the first season, and whenever it germinated, which I thought it looked like foxglove foliage in there when it started to come up, so I left it, and very happy I did. Verbena Bampton. It's better when the sun comes through. It's hard to get a really good picture of this. I hope it self-seeds all over. It is really going over now, just due to lack of sun. But it'll be nice if it could even seed in there and be nice and billowy. In ground, I have a feeling it'll stay maybe a bit shorter than in containers, but this is a plant too that I could cut back by half and it would reflush and look amazing. But I do like the wildness of this look, like fireworks. This is just a sacrificial plant, a sweet pea, covered in aphids for the whole year, but I've not deadheaded it. I just got tired of them crawling. It was a little gross, but it's blooming again. Can you believe? It's probably because I've been watering it due to the foxglove, but it's kept the aphids off of my roses, so it's doing its job and blooming. Looks a bit tough, but yeah, I was going to clean it up the other day and saw some of the blooms. Zinnias, next year I'm gonna go with more vibrant colors. The Benry's Giant. I like the Queen Lime series. They're just a little bit more muted. Granted, it goes good with anything, but I want a strong pop of color. Omega Dahlia. I love the cactus style dahlias. They're my favorite. And that's why all of these are a cactus mix, a sea dahlia mix. Nothing spectacular. I've been deadheading so much, so I need to continue until I'm done. I'm leaving this more for the bees. They just have been really loving this area and gomphoring it in a container. Great. I would even recommend it for part sun, to tell you the truth. This one's going over. I don't know the name of this one, but if I can show you, that one's really pretty. Another cactus one. Again, I have to figure out how I'm going to save those tubers. It would be really nice if I can get some to work out, especially Wiltsy Matilda. Just gonna go here quick. Hydrangeas look amazing. Strawberry Sunday. Little Limelight. Probably should have gone with Limelight. These are 10 years old. I love Pinky Winky. And this one never flops, and you can see why. And this is Vanilla Strawberry. And you can see why that one flopped. We had a storm come through, I want to say at least 3 weeks ago, with 70-mile-an-hour winds that just wreaked havoc on some of this. These will stay on the entire time till next year. They offer a lot of winter interest when everything else is looking so bleak. Self-seeded Verbena bonariensis. Love it in here. And then Limon Telenum. That is one that I would recommend if you start it from seed. Just direct sow it. I'm doing a lot of that next year with zinnias, cosmos. Anything that has a short bloom cycle. I'm really cutting back on seeds that I start. I love it, but I think this year when I was doing the math, between the electricity bill, the water bill, potty mix, everything, I don't even know if I broke even, to tell you the truth. So if I can do a lot of direct sowing, that'll definitely cut down cost. Carl Forster, I'm glad I left it. I did trim up the David Phlox down here, and it is blooming again. And the foliage looks a bit better. But everything was crushing my tree peony, so I was a little concerned for that busting. Baptisia, Pink Lemonade, really took it. Stayed much shorter, and that was just due to all the rain. It's only, I have one other Baptisia looks fantastic, but that's just a non-branded one. False Indigo, or like the native. Tomatoes have been splitting before they ripen. It smells really bad over here, but I am trying to, any green ones that are left over, I will cut and bring in before a frost and then ripen in a brown bag. That usually works. I moved Lady of Shalott over here. I got it more as a climbing rose, so I cut it back. It looks tough, but I'm keeping it well watered. This area stays a little bit more moist, and the soil is just, I fertilize hydrangeas, clematis, and roses, and the peonies, but everything else in here, like the grasses, veronica, don't get it. So other than that, not much fertilizing. I use chicken manure pellets, and I highly recommend that, and it's so cheap. Self-seeded Calamantha, I do love it. More, just this one has a tendency to flop, so I have to figure out how to not have that happen. Or relocate it somewhere. It is pretty, it's done really good this year, just due to the excessive rainfall. Hydrangeas love wet. Not boggy, but consistent moisture, and you'll have an amazing shrub. And they'll get established a lot faster. I did have to tie up this. I think it's a summerific. I have to think on it. It's a hibiscus, floppy growth. Very awesome. There we go. This just keeps blooming. I love it, but it keeps self-seeding, so then that's why it's still blooming. Calamantha, white and purple, and this is where these are just gorgeous here. More of the Wiltsy Matilda. I got in 3 tubers, but some of them broke off, so I just put those in some potting mix, and it worked. So I got a lot of plants from a few tubers. Love that. Cleaned out my cucumbers. It was time. And then prep this bed for garlic, which I probably should have bought the garlic before prepping. That took a bit. Some spent potting mix with this, and it's just soil in there, so it was a really hard, compact soil. So leaving this for privacy for the time being. Lemon my plants had to start early, but I didn't water them at all this year, and they definitely appreciated that. And then I know I'll have lots of plants for next year. These are all just self-seeded garlic chives, and I love it because it's a great pest deterrent. They smell great. Arborvitaes, I think it's full speed ahead, are amazing this year. Last couple years they've been put through the ringer, but this was definitely a year for them to thrive. Leaving some of the status here for drying. White is definitely a strong grower versus everything else. I don't think I'm doing Lysianthus this year. It's gorgeous, but it's just a long time for growing indoors. Started in January. I love the snapdragons. They're just lots of stink bugs. So, leaving it until a frost takes it. I figured pollinators can enjoy it. And they have been, and I have too. So yeah, this is definitely a time to just kind of reflect on the garden as to what did good, what I didn't like. Kind of a hard year to gauge with. It's just been a roller coaster of a ride this year for sure. And then appreciating the little time that's left in the garden. All right, so hopefully you enjoyed, and bye for now.